Okay, so we saw how while loops work. We'll look at a lot more ways of writing loops and ways of using loops, and these are kinds of things that make shell scripts extremely powerful, because you can write a simple loop very quickly. You don't have to compile it, and you just run it, and you can batch process millions of image files or movies or whatever you have. Okay. So let's take a look at this. Oops. Cat lec1110.sh, and this was a very simple while loop. We initialized I to 1, and we checked if it's less than or equal to some limit, which is 20. And while that condition is true, and as we saw, we can have any number of conditions here. Typically we just have one, but you can have any number. And while that condition is true, or the last condition is true, we execute the loop body. And when we get done, when we reach this point, we go back here and reevaluate, and if it's true, we keep going. If it's false, we exit the loop. And here in this case, we print out one last new line character. That's really all this echo is doing. Okay, so I have set up a file here that I would like you to look at. 1106.sh. This is very similar to the script with a simple if statement. Okay, so here what we've done is something very similar. We set the limit is 4 initially, set the count to 0, while count is less than or equal to limit, print out a message, read the answer from the user. That's what this read ANS does. If the answer is uppercase Y or lowercase y, then we say thanks and exit the program. We actually exit the loop too, but this exit will kick you out of the entire program. Else, if the user did not say uppercase Y or lowercase y, then we print out a message and we do this over again. So I don't know if you spotted the problem. Try and take a look at this. You can pause the video and stare at this, see if you find the problem, but I'll go ahead and run this. So you get a question, you say something like that, and it says, just noticed I had the wrong character here. Okay, it's alright, but it's still running. Let's say no. So we've done more than 4, and we were supposed to only do this about 4, maybe 5 times since we started at 0. So let's try a few more times. Apparently it's going to keep going. So try that out. And in this case, if you run into the situation where now you're in an infinite loop, you can try Control-C, and usually that will get you out. So I just hit a Control-C, and it shows up here, and that got me out of the loop. So then you can debug cat this file again. Oops. And you can pause this video and see if you spot the error. I don't want to give it away right now, but it's not that hard to spot. Compare this with lec11 minus 0, 9, I believe. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Was it 8? No, I'm not lucky this time. 10. Oh yeah, 10. So compare lec11-06 with lec11-10.sh. Okay, and then you'll be able to figure out what we were missing in the 6.sh file. Alright, so back to our flow control statements. We saw the while statement. Next up, we have an until statement, which we do not have in Java or C, but it's something that's very useful. Basic idea is sort of So opposite, basically the list of condition commands, that is, this list of conditions is evaluated each time around the loop, and it can be a single command or an expression. We will stick to very simple single commands. And you can also have a pipeline. We'll see what that is soon. And once again, it's the exit code of the very last command in this list of commands. You can have any number. Typically, we just have one. In these, especially these simple cases, we'll just have something like this: I greater than 20. So here's the difference. If this condition is false, then the task commands in here in the loop body, we call this the loop body in Java, the loop body is executed if this condition is false. Until it becomes true, we do this. So once this condition becomes true, and typically you want to have something in this loop body that will change one of these conditions. Typically it's just one condition, and so something in here should change, and in this case I should be incremented, and eventually this condition will be true, and then we exit. If it is true the very first time, then the loop body does not get executed. Just like, I guess a do while, or yeah, I guess we don't have anything quite like this in Java. Okay, so I have an example of this in the list of scripts that you might have access to. I'm going to cat it out, lec 11. If you don't have access to this, you can look at it right here. So it's lec 11-l11.sh, and it's pretty much just like the previous script, that is -10, except that it has an until here. Okay, and if you run this, so you can pause this video and try it out, copy and paste, and it's very similar to lec 11-10. Oops. There we go. So same idea, it just prints out all pretty much identical output, but the actual structure of the loop is different. Instead of having a while, it's an until. Instead of less than or equal to, we use greater than. And it gives us, I believe, the same output. Okay, so it's a simple example of using the until loop. Another nice way of programming. Do you absolutely have to have it? No, you could probably do anything you do with until, you could probably do with the while loop. But it's a nice thing to have. Okay, so next up is for loops. This is going to be quite a bit different from the kinds of for loops that we've seen in a language like Java or C++ or C. But same basic idea. So we have a variable, and if it is if that variable has it takes on values in some list, and for each value that it takes on in this list, it will do a bunch of commands. So that's the same basic idea. Usually these kinds of loops are used to process files. So typically what we will do is we'll say, in essence, we'll say for each file in this list of files, do these commands. So if you're doing some image processing on some huge list of files, you can, it's very easy to set up. You don't even have to actually have the actual, every single file listed here. You can say for each I in star. That's, it turns out that's all you need to do. If you do that, you can set up a loop that will get executed for each file in your list of files in your current working directory. Okay. Couple of things to note. The words for this word should be the first word in the line. Also and if you haven't seen it so far, one thing you'll notice is that shell script syntax is a lot less forgiving than things like Java or C or C++. Everything has to be just right. If you, for example, put the do over here on this line, You might have to do something like have a semicolon, like in the case of the if statement, to get that to work. So remember, with an if statement, you have to say if, some condition, then semicolon, and then, or not use the semicolon and have the then on the next line. You know, this is very different from what we've seen in Java, but it works. It's not exactly the same, but it's decent. Okay, so here's a very simple for loop for I in this list ABC, echo I. So this will just print out ABC. Nice simple loop. And so that's a simple example. This is how typically we will use for loops. So let's take a quick look at a simple for loop that I've set up. Should be the next one. Cat like 11-12. Okay, here I have set up two examples of for loops. The first one is exactly like in the notes we just looked at, and well, actually not exactly the same. I put in the -n to save space so that they don't put out so that it doesn't put out one character for every line. It just prints them all on one line, and I use a space to space things out. All right, so I do essentially the same loop that we had in the notes just now, but then I do something very similar using arrays. So here I set up an array called values, and I use open parentheses, put up the list of all the things in my array, and then I say for I in, just like I did over here with this first for loop for I in ABC, but here I use the values of the array, and this is what you have to use to get each element of the array. So this is saying, this is sort of like the enhanced for loop in Java. For each I in this array, print this out. So let's try it out. Okay, so the first for loop printed out ABC. That's because that's what was in the list of elements that I took on. The second loop printed out everything in this array. Okay, so take a look at that, try it out, try out your own version of this. That's the best way to learn these, the syntax of statements in shell scripts. Here's maybe a much more useful loop. This says for each file in star. So shell scripts do understand things like these meta characters. Star means essentially all the files in the current working directory. And so this will echo out, execute the command pwd for this file. So there's a space here. I believe there should be a space here. It won't work without one. And so remember, this is just protecting the $sign. This is making sure that this is treated as this variable. So try this out. What this should do is execute pwd, and then, oh, I see. Wait, you don't need a space. I see what I'm doing. I thought I was doing something different. Sorry, this is the /. It's not protecting the $sign. This will just say pwd. It'll print out the current working directory and then the name of the file. So this will just print out the current working directory and file name for every file in the current directory. Sorry about that. So this is, once again, it's not executing. This is an argument to pwd. This is just concatenating the output of pwd with the file. Right. Another way you can use for loops is to loop through all the command line arguments using a structure like this, for I in $. And you can also do it this way. So try these examples and we look at more.